Yes, happy Eid al-Kabir is on our mind, and some people will say Barka de Salah. Whichever one suits you is still a case of this festivity is one that we're happy to commemorate. Eid al-Kabir is an Islamic festival to commemorate the willingness of Ibrahim, also known as Abraham, to follow God's command to sacrifice his son Ishmael. Muslims around the world observe this event. If you're watching international television stations all around the world today, they're showing people in Mecca commemorating this and worshipping during the course of today as part of this event. Well, to have the conversation with us, we have our brothers in the house. I'll start with the person on my right-hand side. That's Kasim Akireti, who's the National Secretary, Publications and Media Relations, Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, Nigeria. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Barka de Salah.
Barka de Salah to you too. And then on the left-hand side, we have Ustaz Lawal Jibril, who's the National Secretary, Islamic Youth League of Nigeria. Great to have you. Great to have you here. And then next to, I'm mixing things up. I've been told it's supposed to be Abdul Gami Shobambi, who's Muslim cleric, Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. Good morning and welcome. And just next to him is Dairo, who's a Muslim youth and also a social commentator. Great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let me start with the Muslim cleric from the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, Abdul Gami Shobambi. Great to have you here, but let me start by asking you, what is the significance of this to Muslims? Because it's been going on for so many years, and you will think after a while it becomes, okay, we're just doing it because it's routine, but for religion, it's never routine.
Well, Eid al-Kabir is a festival which marks the Hazrat Ibrahim's submission to Almighty's will, and not only from his side, his son also submitted, because in the Quran it is recorded that when Ibrahim had the dream and presented the dream before the child said, Ishmael said, I'm ready to submit myself to the will of God. So the message there is that you cannot be weary any time, because the ordinance from God is eternal. It's for all time. It's not something that you do and then you say, no, I'm done with after doing it for 2-3 years. There, every Muslim has to have this knowledge that the lesson inherent in it is you should be ready as a father to obey the ordinances of God, follow it strictly, and the child that you have, your children, should also follow suit.
And what is expected of Muslims during this period?
In this period, Muslims are expected to go out all for the Salat, and that is the prayer, which is it's a congregation that is done for all Muslims in a town to come together and pray. Then after that, then they slaughter the ram. So, but the ram is not the major thing.
It's not the major thing.
It's not the major thing.
Right.
The spirit behind it is what actually matters, and that is obedience.
Okay, Dari, Ibrahim, also known as Abraham, is the father of the faith to a large extent, because it takes a lot of faith to trust God and say you will sacrifice that which is of greatest value to you. The only son in his old age is willing to sacrifice to God. What is the lesson that you think our generation today, where it's difficult at times to even give 1,000 naira when you know that you only have 1,300, how do you begin to tell them that there's a significant message in this, not valuing anything above Allah?
Well, thank you very much. I think that question is very instructive, especially because when I look at religion, I try to, because the essence of religion actually anyway is to regulate the character of the human person and the harmony of the various elements man, man and environment, man and nature. Okay, so in answering that, I would like to look at it in the practicality of our present situation, and I think we lost that, and that's why we are in the problem we find ourselves, particularly in Nigeria today. Okay, give or take, we are one of the wealthiest nations on earth today by virtue of the resources we have. But how much of that has gone round fairly in the spirit of such occasions as we celebrate every year? You know, if the Eid alone were all that we know about religion and its impacts truly in our lives, Nigeria should have no problem with poverty. Nigeria should have no problem with insecurity. But the truth is that we have substitutes, you know, the shell, you know, of religiosity for the core of what religion is supposed to be, which is, like you said, this God we claim to love, believe in so much, we can't see him. And yet in our mind and every day we say that he created everything and he created them good. So whether you are Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, whatever you are a creation of God. So how about extending a bit of that love in good faith to God, to you too? So I think we've lost that. And that's part of why we are in the problem.
So how do we retrace our steps back to what Eid al-Kabir stands for?
I think the book,
You're picking your words.
Yes,
it's fine. You just
I hate always saying blame the leaders and all of that. But you see, the truth is, you know, it said, many are called, but few are chosen.
True.
The purpose of the chosen few is to be the shepherd for the many that are called. But even this chosen few, so to say, in this essence, have lost to materialism. Have lost to extremism. You know. So I think the first thing we need to do is for our so-called religious leaders, our faith leaders, to start being sincere to what they
We'll come
preach.
back to extremism much later, but you were going to...
Yeah, I was going to ask Kazim. Now, in terms of this significant issue of obedience and a second one, which is willingness to sacrifice.
And faith.
How do we get our people to recognize, especially as we commemorate Eid al-Kabir, to say obedience is extremely important, but sacrifice is equally so? Are we willing to sacrifice anything? Our politicians are not willing to sacrifice. They want what they want, and they must get it at any cost. People in business at times do the same. And people at the lowest rung of the ladder would not sacrifice anything just to get a pot of porridge.
Yeah, I think the clear departure from that is the fact that we've lost the essence of faith, because that is actually what will prepare even your obedience and your submission to everything that you are doing. If you don't have that faith as a courage, you've lost virtually everything. And that is what we need to hold on to tenaciously. It's just like, yes, I believe this will be done. Yes, I believe I will achieve this. In your inner mind, it's a settled issue. And so when you are now driving in, you are going to, yes, because I believe it's going to happen. I'll keep faith in it, and I'm going to be obedient with it. Then I'll go through the old hog. That would have been good for us. But the moment you've lost that track, you just keep on jumping, moving from one end to the other, and then eventually you lost everything. In religion, which of course, that's why I say Abraham is a father of faith. If we all agree that he's a father of faith, and we also believe in him, then we should go through the whole hog of what is expected of us, irrespective of the situation we find ourselves. Like, Ibrahim, that's just stated You could see his father said, yes, God, I had a dream that this is how it's going to be, and you are going to be sacrificed. And he said, let it be, if that is the wish of God. So, do we as a people, let's just bring it down, narrow it down to our normal daily chores. If we believe in our box, for example, let's just take from that perspective,
Right.
and give you an instruction to do this, and then just go ahead to do, because we believe that what is telling you is the real truth and not about the truth. And of course, you get to your destination very well with that directive. Then you go along with it. But today, it is rather you have a rethink. Oh, he said I should go and do this. Has he been doing that? You start to question so many things. You start to rationalize so many things on your own objectivity. Not truly on say, okay, yes, this is what they are saying. Let's go ahead with it. And then you see the end result that will come. So it's pervades virtually everything we do in life. If you have lost faith in whatever you are doing, honestly, you've lost faith.
How do you find it back? How do you retrace your step? I think, Shah, you mentioned that. How do you
That
retrace
seemed
your
to
step?
be, I mean, the crux of the matter now.
We'll just go
How
back to
do
the
we go
basics.
back?
We
What are
don't-
the basics?
Yeah, the basics is that you hold that belief. And that is why in Islam, the 5 pillars of Islam and the 6 articles of, no, let me tell you, 6 articles of faith. That you believe in God, that it does exist. You believe in the prophets. You believe in the books. You believe in the angels. You believe in the hereafter. And if you look at some of these 6 articles of faith, it falls basically within even the philosophy of our lives.
Right. Okay.
So if you go back to that basis, you are perfect with it. And Islam has also gone a step ahead, talking about the 5 pillars of Islam. And the 5 pillars of Islam takes that chord right away. First, believe in Allah. You believe in in this call. And you believe in tashahhud, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. You believe there is God, then you believe in the Prophet Muhammad, you believe in his message. Write down, then you go on salat, in prayers, you fast, and then you also go to Hajj.
Zakat.
Then you pay zakat. Just look at the thread. It falls in line with the 6 articles of faith.
So when you play it out within the 6 articles, you should
Right.
be good, right?
Absolutely.
Now, there's a question I've been meaning to ask, and a few, around the world that I know of, wanting to know. Can you explain the part of, dying and getting to heaven to find virgins?
Well,
The virgin part of Islam,
Yeah.
yes, like you die and then.
Is that part of
virgins-
Islam, or
is it
some
part of
people
Islam?
it's
actually?
really not part of it.
Let Dari ask because he's giggling.
Well, you see, first, let me say here that the Prophet ﷺ said so many things in his time that even those within then could not comprehend. Because, okay, like the Quran in Surah Al-Rahman, Allah said, "O ye men and jinn, traverse beyond the earth and go into the moon, if you so wish. But you will never be able to do that except be sultan." Some have translated sultan to mean knowledge and all of that. Those people then, there wasn't rockets and all of that. The Prophet had talked about such things as mobile phones and things like that in his days that people then could not comprehend. So, in that context, when we start talking about
Virgins.
virgins,
Seven
it could
virgins.
look absurd right now, but let's not take it in that connotative meaning. But the problem of that context of virgins and all of that is beyond just virginity. Don't forget, we are in an era of over-sexualized or over-sexuality, if I can use that word, gender and all of that. That aside, but relating that to the issue of extremism, I think the basic thing is you should understand the 21st century, because of the rapid pace of change and the various disconnects. And essentially, anyway, the battle of the 21st century is a battle of the ideology. Now, it would, for the unsavory eye, it will look as if the problem of the 21st century is Islam, but really it is religion itself. Because as Islam is battling with extremism, Christianity is battling with materialism. Take it or leave it.
That's true.
And it's taking away the very core of Christianity itself. Now, back to the question of extremism.